ask you something right now. Are you living the life you chose or the one you settled for? Because whether you realize it or not, every single day you are making decisions. You are choosing your standards, choosing your relationships, choosing your energy, your beliefs, your identity, and ultimately, you're choosing your life. Most people don't live their dreams. You know why? Because they've been hypnotized into believing that this is all there is. And they say, well, this is just how it is. No, that's how you've allowed it to become. Let me be blunt with you. You don't get what you want. You get what you tolerate. If you tolerate stress, if you tolerate being broke, if you tolerate people treating you like you don't matter, then guess what? That's your life by default, not by design. But here's the truth. You've got to own right now. Your life can change in a moment. The moment you decide, not wish, not hope, not kinda, sorta, try. Decide, because decisions shape destiny, not conditions. Listen, you weren't born to just wake up, pay bills, and die. You were born with fire in your soul, with a purpose that demands to be unleashed. But the world, it's been trying to tame you, make you small, fit in, conform. I'm here to remind you, you were not built to fit in. You were built to break through. You want transformation? You want freedom? You want to create a life that makes you proud to wake up every morning? Then it starts with this: raise your standards, change your story, master your state. Don't say I'm not motivated. You don't need motivation. You need a mission. You need to get crystal clear about what you stand for, what you will no longer accept, and what you're committed to creating. Not someday, not next year, now. Stop playing small because you're afraid of failing. Failure isn't the enemy, fear is. And the only way to kill fear is through action. So here's the challenge. What would your life look like if you showed up every day as your highest, most powerful self? What if you spoke your truth? What if you gave your all? What if you stopped waiting for permission and just gave yourself the damn green light? That version of you, it already exists. It's not a fantasy. It's not out there. It's right here, waiting behind your excuses, your stories, your hesitation. But you've got to choose. You've got to choose your life, not your past, not your comfort zone, not what your parents expected or what society said is safe. Your life, your calling, your legacy. And when you choose your life, really choose it. You stop blaming, stop waiting, stop surviving, and you start creating. You start leading, you start living with fire in your soul and peace in your heart. So don't let today be just another day. Let today be the line in the sand, the day you said, enough. I choose my life. And from this moment forward, you never go back. You don't get what you want, you get what you tolerate. That statement isn't just a motivational catchphrase, it's a reality check. Look at your life right now, your health, your relationships, your career, your bank account, your mindset. Every result you're experiencing is not simply a reflection of your desires, but of what you have consistently allowed to exist. Wanting something isn't enough. Everybody wants to be happy. Everybody wants to be successful. Everybody wants freedom. But the truth is, the universe doesn't respond to wants, it responds to standards. Your life will rise to the level of what you demand of yourself. Not once, not occasionally, but consistently. And the danger, most people are negotiating with their lives every single day. They're negotiating with their potential. They're saying, well, this job is good enough, or this relationship isn't great, but at least I'm not alone. Or I know I need to get in shape, but I'm just too tired lately. Those aren't just harmless thoughts. They are tolerations. And tolerations become patterns. And patterns become identity. What you tolerate becomes your reality. Not because it's what you deserve, but because it's what you're allowing to stay. If you're constantly overwhelmed, chances are you've tolerated living in chaos. If you're surrounded by toxic people, you've tolerated low standards in your relationships. If your body isn't where you want it to be, you've tolerated excuses over discipline. If you're broke, struggling, stuck, it's not because you chose that, but you've tolerated that state long enough for it to become your normal. The scary part is the longer you tolerate something, the more it hardens into habit. And then one day you wake up and that temporary compromise has become a permanent lifestyle. You stop even questioning it. The time has come to questioning it because you have become lost in the gloom and darkness. You stop fighting, you stop believing that change is possible because your standards have eroded silently over time. People talk a lot about dreams and goals, but dreams without high standards are just wishes. Goals without commitment to action are just decorations on a vision board. The foundation of all transformation is raising your standard, not hoping for something better, but refusing to settle for anything less than what sets your soul on fire. Think about the areas of your life where you've been frustrated. Chances are there's a gap between what you want and what you've been willing to accept. And until that changes, until you draw a line in the sand and say, I will no longer tolerate this, nothing will shift. Because change doesn't begin with desire. Change begins with intolerance, a deep emotional rejection of the current state. You have to become emotionally disgusted with mediocrity. You have to get to a place where staying the same is more painful than doing the work to change. That's when transformation begins. This isn't about perfection. It's not about pretending you're always strong or fearless. It's about becoming honest with yourself. Where have you lowered the bar? Where have you compromised your values? Where have you looked the other way because change felt too hard? That's the real conversation. That's where growth begins. When you raise your standards, you don't just change your behavior, you change your identity. You stop saying things like, I'm trying to get healthy. And you start saying, I don't tolerate treating my body like it doesn't matter. You stop saying, I hope my partner respects me, and start saying, I don't tolerate relationships that lack mutual respect. That shift, that language, that inner declaration, it's everything. Because life will test you. Life will always bring you opportunities to settle, to slip, to accept less. And if your standards are soft, if your boundaries are negotiable, you'll end up back in the same cycles. But when your standards are non-negotiable, your life begins to align with a higher truth. You become magnetic. You attract different people. You show up differently. You speak differently. You walk into a room and people can feel it. There's no tolerance for nonsense. No tolerance for smallness. No tolerance for anything that doesn't match the future you're building. Decisions shape destiny, not conditions. That's a truth most people overlook while waiting for life to get easier, waiting for circumstances to change, waiting for the stars to align before they take action. But life doesn't work that way. Your future isn't written by your environment, it's written by your choices. It's not your background, your upbringing, your income level, or your current struggles that determine where you go. It's the decisions you make in the face of all those things that carve the path forward. People love to blame conditions. I can't start that business because the economy is rough. I can't work on myself because I'm too busy. I can't leave this toxic relationship because I have nowhere else to go. But behind every excuse is a decision not to take control. Because no matter how tough the environment is, no matter how unfair life has been, there are people who have risen from worse. And the difference? They decided to take ownership. Decisions are powerful because they override circumstances. You can have no money, no connections, no formal education, and still decide to become great. You can be stuck in the middle of a storm and still decide to lead yourself through it. You can be surrounded by mediocrity and still choose to be exceptional. That's the beauty of the human will, the power to decide changes everything. The problem is most people are making soft decisions, if you can even call them that. They say, I'll try, I'll see what happens, maybe next week. Those aren't decisions. That's indecision disguised as action. A real decision comes with commitment. A real decision cuts off all other possibilities. When you decide, truly decide, you eliminate plan B. You remove the exit doors. You give yourself no option but to follow through. Think about the people who have radically changed their lives. It didn't happen because they got lucky. It happened because they reached a point where the pain of staying the same became greater than the fear of change. In that moment, they made a decision. Not a comfortable one, not a convenient one, but a decision rooted in necessity. That's when life starts to shift, when change becomes non-negotiable. When you say, I don't care what it takes, I'm doing this. You might be thinking, but I've made decisions before and nothing changed. If that's true, it wasn't a decision, it was a preference. You preferred to lose weight, but you didn't commit. You preferred to grow your business, but you didn't go all in. You preferred to speak your truth, but you stayed silent when it mattered. Decisions are backed by action. They are not thoughts, they are not feelings. They are lines drawn in the sand, followed by movement. Relentless movement. Movement, what separates those who create extraordinary lives from those who remain stuck is not that they had better luck, it's that they made stronger decisions and stuck with them longer. Every breakthrough begins with a decision. The decision to change, the decision to rise, the decision to stop blaming and start building. That one moment of clarity, that one shift in your psychology can rewrite your entire trajectory. And the most important decisions are made when it's hardest to decide. It's easy to decide to be positive when everything's going well. It's easy to decide to be disciplined when you're motivated. But the real muscle is built when conditions are against you, when your back's against the wall, when you're tired, when the voices in your head are screaming at you to quit. That's when the decision has weight. That's when it counts. The truth is, conditions will always change. The market will go up and down. People will come and go. Your emotions will rise and fall. But your decisions, that's what roots you. That's what defines you. Every time you make a powerful decision, you reinforce who you are. And over time, those choices become your identity. The person who decides to lead, the person who decides to be strong, the person who decides to live on their own terms. You can't control the weather, but you can decide how to show up in the storm. You can't control what people do, but you can decide how you respond. You can't control the economy, but you can decide how to build, how to serve, how to rise. Decision is the tool, the weapon, the starting point. Everything else is just noise. Raise your standards, change your story, master your state. These three commands are not suggestions. They are the framework for lasting transformation. Everything in your life, from your results to your relationships to your internal world, is governed by these forces. If you want to elevate your life, if you want to break through, these are the three levers you must pull. Raising your standards means you no longer accept things in your life that do not align with your highest self. It's about drawing a clear line between what's acceptable and what's not for others, but for you. Most people don't get what they want in life because their standards are too low. They accept being tired all the time. They accept being underpaid. They accept being surrounded by people who don't challenge or support them. But the moment you decide that those conditions are beneath what you are capable of, everything starts to shift. High standards create high energy. They create a sense of purpose and urgency. When your standards rise, your life rises with them. Changing your story is about taking control of the narrative you tell yourself. We all have stories about who we are, what we're capable of, and what the world is like. Some of these stories serve us, but many of them limit us. They were built in childhood, shaped by pain, failure, or fear. I'm not good with money. I always sabotage relationships. I'll never be confident. These stories become cages, and until you challenge them, you live inside them. Changing your story doesn't mean denying your past, it means reclaiming your authorship. You get to write the script. You get to choose the meaning. You get to decide that your past was preparation, not punishment. You get to shift from I'm broken to I'm building, from I'm lost to I'm learning, from I'm stuck to I'm starting. Your identity is shaped by the story you tell. If you keep saying I'm lazy, you'll act like someone who is lazy. If you shift that story to I'm a disciplined person who is still refining my routines, you begin to align your actions with that new identity. That's how you rewire behavior, by rewriting the narrative that drives it. The story you live in creates the emotions you feel. It impacts the goals you set, the risks you take, and the future you believe is possible. Mastering your state is the third and most immediate tool. State is everything. It's your emotional home, your physiology, your mental focus. It's how you show up in any given moment. You can have all the tools in the world, but if your state is weak, reactive, fearful, or sluggish, you won't use them. People think success is about strategy, but strategy is useless without state. When you're in a powerful state, confident, focused, energized, you make powerful decisions, you take bold actions, you communicate with certainty, you lead. Your state is not a mystery, it's not random, it's something you can control. It's made up of three things: your physiology, your focus, and your language. Change your body, stand taller, breathe deeper, move with energy, and your emotions shift instantly. Change your focus. What are you choosing to see, to feel, to expect? And your reality begins to reframe. Change your language, the words you use to describe your life, and your story evolves. Saying, I'm overwhelmed, versus saying, I'm challenged but capable, creates an entirely different emotional experience. Your language drives your emotions, and your emotions drive your actions. The key is to train your state like a muscle. Build rituals that put you in power. Don't wait for motivation. Create momentum. Start your day by conditioning your body, your mind, your emotions. Interrupt negative patterns. Don't indulge low energy for long. It's human to dip, but it's powerful to rise. The strongest people aren't those who never fall. They're the ones who snap back fast. They don't stay in suffering. They intervene with state shifts. Breath, movement, focus. These are tools, not theories. They work if you work them. Raising your standard sets the bar. Changing your story reclaims your direction. Mastering your state controls the now. These three together create a foundation that is unshakable. Because no matter what comes at you from the outside, pressure, rejection, uncertainty, your inner world is prepared. You've built a life not on hope, but on mastery, not on reaction, but on responsibility. Failure isn't the enemy. Fear is. Failure is feedback, it's data, it's a stepping stone. But fear is the invisible wall that stops people before they even begin. It paralyzes action, it distorts reality, and it keeps people locked in lives that don't reflect their potential. Most people aren't stuck because they've failed too much. They're stuck because they're afraid to try again. The fear of looking foolish, the fear of being rejected, the fear of not being good enough. That fear builds cages that people live inside for years. When people say they fear failure, what they often mean is they fear judgment. They fear what other people will think if they fall short. They fear proving their own inner critic right. But the truth is, nobody ever did anything significant without failing. The ones who succeed aren't the ones who never failed. They're the ones who failed and kept going. They collected failure like tools, not wounds. They understood that failure was part of the price of growth. But fear offers nothing in return, it only takes. It robs you of time, of experiences, of bold decisions. It talks you out of your destiny. Fear creates comfort zones, and comfort zones feel safe, but they are slow death traps. Everything you want, growth, freedom, impact, love, confidence, it lives on the other side of fear, but fear is clever. It doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers. It says things like, be realistic. It says, you're not ready yet. It says, maybe later. That's fear in disguise, pretending to be logic or patience. But behind those rationalizations is avoidance. And avoidance leads to regret. Not now, not tomorrow, but years down the line when you look back and realize how many opportunities you ignored. The key is to stop negotiating with fear. You can't wait until the fear disappears, because it won't. Fear is part of the human experience, but courage is choosing to move forward in spite of it. It's acting before you feel ready. It's speaking up even when your voice shakes. It's saying yes when your whole body wants to run. Courage isn't about being fearless. It's about deciding that your dreams are more important than your doubts. What you fear the most often marks the path you must walk. If you fear starting the business, it's probably because your soul knows it's your calling. If you fear being alone, it's likely because there's healing that needs to happen. If you fear being seen, then that's exactly what needs to happen for you to step into your full power. Fear shines a light on your edge, and your edge is where transformation lives. Most of the fear people carry isn't even based in reality. It's based on imagined scenarios, on memories from the past, or on projections that may never happen. The mind creates stories. What if I fail? What if they laugh? What if I lose everything? But the opposite is also true. What if you succeed? What if they're inspired? What if you gain more than you ever imagined? The problem is that fear tends to win because people rehearse the worst case scenario more than they visualize the best case. They become loyal to their limits instead of their potential. To overcome fear, you must expose yourself to it repeatedly. Do the thing that scares you again and again until the fear shrinks. Action dissolves fear. Clarity dissolves fear. When you sit still and think, fear grows. But when you move, when you act, when you engage, fear loses its grip. It may still whisper, but it can't lead. You take the wheel. You choose the direction. It's also important to change your relationship with failure. Start celebrating it. Every failure is evidence that you're in the game, that you're growing, that you're stretching beyond your comfort. If you're not failing, you're not playing big enough. You're playing safe. And playing safe might protect your ego, but it costs your life. Don't aim to avoid failure. Aim to outgrow it. Aim to rise above it. Aim to use it. Fear is a liar. It will tell you that you're not enough, that's not the right time, that you don't have what it takes, but you do. The truth is, fear only has power when you obey it. Once you challenge it, once you face it, you see how small it really is. You begin to realize that fear was never the giant, it was the gatekeeper. And you are always holding the key. Stop surviving, start creating. Choose your life. Most people are in survival mode and don't even realize it. They're waking up each day reacting to problems, managing stress, dealing with obligations, and hoping to just make it through. They're living on autopilot, just trying to get to the weekend, just trying to make it to the next paycheck, just trying to keep their head above water. And in that state, you're not really living. You're enduring. You're existing, you're functioning, but you're not fulfilled. Survival is based on fear, creation is based on vision. And the shift from one to the other is where your power begins. When you're surviving, Your nervous system is locked into reactivity. You're scanning for threats. You're minimizing risk. You're not thinking long term. You're not building, you're coping. And it becomes a loop. You get up, go to work, handle responsibilities, collapse at the end of the day, and do it all over again. You tell yourself that one day it will change. One day you'll have the energy. One day you'll have the time. But one day never comes until you draw a line and say, this is not enough anymore. Creation doesn't happen by accident. It happens by decision. You have to decide that your life is your canvas, not your cage. You have to stop waiting for permission, for clarity, for certainty. You don't need to know every step. You need to know that settling is no longer an option. Creation means you build what you want to experience. You shape it, you mold it, you define it. You move from passive to active, from victim to visionary, from waiting to leading. Choosing your life means taking radical responsibility, not blaming the past, not waiting on someone else. It means realizing that no one is coming to save you, and that's the best news, because it means you don't have to wait. You are not at the mercy of your history, your circumstances, or the people around you. You have the power to direct your focus, your energy, and your time. That is your leverage. That is your freedom. But it requires that you stop living by default and start living by design. Creation begins in the mind. If you can't see it, you can't build it. Most people have trained their brains to focus only on problems. They've lost their ability to imagine. But imagination is the starting point of transformation. You need to give yourself space to dream, to envision, to ask the question, what do I want to create? Not what do I think I can get, not what do I think I deserve. What do I want? Deep down, unapologetically. Because desire is the fuel. Desire is the spark that moves you from motionless to momentum. When you create, you stop reacting and start initiating. You stop avoiding failure and start aiming for it. Growth. You stop living someone else's script and start writing your own. You take back your time. You take back your attention. You stop living according to expectations and you start living in alignment. And in that alignment, you find energy. You find clarity. You find meaning. That's what most people are missing. It's not motivation, it's mission. When you're surviving, everything feels heavy. When you're creating, even the hard things feel worth it. The resistance will still be there. The fear will still whisper. The doubts will still come. But when you're in creation mode, you're no longer paralyzed by them. You see them as part of the process. You use them. You move through them. You stop needing to feel ready. You start trusting that readiness comes through movement, that clarity comes through action. That confidence comes through evidence. Evidence you create by doing the very things your fear told you to avoid. Choosing your life doesn't mean you'll have all the answers. It means you're willing to ask better questions. It means you're willing to stop living for approval and start living for authenticity. It means you give yourself permission to want more, to become more, to demand more from yourself and for yourself. It's not about control, it's about intention. It's about showing up every day with a sense of direction, not drifting, not waiting for life to happen, but actively shaping the moments that become your future. The truth is, everyone is creating something. Even when you think you're doing nothing, you're still creating habits, routines, environments. The question is, are you creating by choice or by chance? Are you building the life you want? Or are you reinforcing the one you settled for? That's what it means to choose your life. It's not a one-time decision. It's a daily alignment, a daily recalibration, a daily act of courage to say, this is who I am and this is where I'm going.